Tuesday, September 23rd, off of a big weekend in college football and the NFL. We've got the baseball playoffs coming down to the literal and proverbial wire this week. We've got some interesting stuff going on right now in Cleveland. But it's another edition of the Mike Arana Show. Thank you for being here and joining us. Feel free to comment along while you're watching along. Follow us on all of our social channels at Mike Arana Show. What in the absolute hell is going on in the middle of my screen, Vegas Mac? Are you confused? Are you lost? Did you make a wrong turn somewhere today?
I had to decide today whether I was a surfer or a biker. And as you can tell, I went with I'm a surfer, not a biker.
Maybe. TJ, did you gather any of that from that?
I don't know, man. Hold on. I can't. This is too much for me now. Now
there we go.
Much better. I can see very well now. Holy smokes!
Yeah, well, try and follow along here, folks.
Connect the dots.
Where do you get surfer out of that? Is my question.
Well, you got to see the whole thing. I mean, this is just part of it. Maybe during Liquid Locks, I'll let you take a look.
Oh,
this is a family show.
Now nobody's going to watch Liquid Locks, bro. You're going to pull a Pat McAfee and get down into your Speedo for us at the end of the show?
You never know. You never know.
Don't say we didn't warn you. All kinds of fun stuff going on, guys. I've literally got, if you see my eyes wandering to the right of my room in this office here, / studio, whatever you want to call it, the Tigers and the Guardians in that battle for the Central. Guardians are up 3-2 in the seventh. They have runners on second and third now with 2 outs in the seventh, looking to kind of bust this thing open. They got to Scooble in the sixth. Kind of a scary moment there. David Fry squared around a bunt on a fastball from Scooble and ended up taking it right off the freaking nose area. They had to pull a card out here, but that Central race is absolutely fantastic. We're going to dive a lot more into baseball tomorrow on tomorrow's program, so we'll have a lot better feel for exactly what's going on as of tomorrow. Right now, if you're an American League team and your name is the Blue Jays, congratulations. You're the only ones that have clinched a spot. Tonight, the Mariners can be added to that list with a win over the hapless Rockies and a win from the Yankees. So they need some help from the Yankees to get in tonight, but I think they made their statement very clearly this past weekend in sweeping the Astros, who don't have a tiebreaker over these Guardians. So it's going to be a very interesting finish. Surfer Boy, how was your weekend, my friend?
It was great. Got to watch a lot of football, and it was a relaxing weekend. So we haven't had one of those in the house in a while. So we've been pretty busy, and we're pretty busy the next couple of weeks as well. So it was nice to kind of just sit back and just relax a little bit and watch some football.
And the floodgates have now opened a little bit of a breaking of the dam. It is 5-2 Guardians with that win. What up, Adam? With that win, the Guards will tie the Tigers at the top of the Central. What a collapse going on in Detroit right now. TJ, how was your weekend, man?
Well, it was not the best of sports weekends, but it was a pretty freaking good weekend. I'll just say that.
There you go. The Surfer Boy, I think you had something else to say there.
Yeah, I can't remember.
He doesn't look like Josh.
I can't remember, bro.
Can't remember, brah.
I can't remember, brah.
I gotta go get some nasty waves.
Mac is dealing with some connection issues in his local area tonight. Have been all day, so bear with us here if we're a little off our normal sync, guys. But what a weekend on the college gridiron. We are 1 week, exactly slightly less than 1 week away from slightly less than 1 week away from the dropping of our first Mac-12 rankings, the only rankings in college football that actually matter. And we had some interesting games on Saturday, guys, in a couple of wins that have turned out to be, as we found out today, a little costly for certain teams towards the top of the top 25. Florida traveled down to South Florida to play Miami. They left the offense in Gainesville or Baton Rouge or back in Gainesville before that. Who knows? Florida State gets Mac a cover in his Big Mac spread debut by pounding Kent State. Texas shuts out Houston 55-0. Arch Manning looked pretty good. Well, he only did it against Sam Houston. What do you guys want out there, people? And Indiana, just an absolute ass kicking of Illinois. So let's go around the room here, fellas. I'll start with you in the middle, Mac. Give me a highlight, one of your highlights from this weekend. I know we've each got a couple of them here, and I think we've got them fairly well spread out. So give me one of your highlights from the weekend, Mac.
I was really impressed with Texas Tech. I think they're for real. And you're going to say, yeah, well, they didn't look great in the first half, but let's put a couple of things into perspective. Number one, I mean, they're playing against Utah. Utah is not a pushover, especially at home. Utah is a quality opponent. But here's where I really think Texas Tech kind of takes that step. You lose your starting quarterback and you bring in a freshman quarterback and programs, good programs, your Alabamas, your Ohio States, those kind of programs. When somebody like that goes down, you bring somebody in and you don't miss a beat. And this Texas Tech team did not miss a beat. That was an impressive performance in the second half by Will Hammond. He looked nothing like a freshman quarterback to me. This team looked great on defense. They really, they held Utah to basically nothing on offense. And they just kind of, I really think, and it's hard to say this against a Utah team, but I think they wore Utah down. And that just doesn't happen. And I think this Texas Tech team is for real. I'd love to go down in a couple weeks and watch them when they play ASU, but I really like this Texas Tech team.
Yeah, Baron Morton not expected to miss any time. The Red Raiders on a bye this week. Their next game will be against Houston when they come off the bye, a little bit sore from the hit, which was pretty controversial. Did not result in a targeting call after a subsequent review. Pretty sore from the hit, but not expected to miss any time. T, give me one of your surprises from this past weekend on the college gridiron.
Yeah, I'm going to stay in the same conference, and I'm going to say Arizona State. They went to Baylor, a really good Baylor team, and that game, I thought it was going to be a shootout, and it took 3 periods before it got there. But, I mean, those defenses in that game were outstanding. That was such a good game to watch front to back. And then finally ASU got it going, and then Baylor started getting going. I thought you saw some great quarterback play from Levitt in the fourth quarter. I thought you saw some great quarterback play from Sawyer in the fourth quarter. And yeah, I don't think it's a surprise. I picked Arizona State to win on the road. I was not surprised that they won. I was surprised at what it took to win. I was very impressed with Baylor, but even more so impressed that ASU was able to go in a hostile environment on the road and get out of town with a win.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it was a great game unless you bet on the freaking over like I did, and you didn't bet on it early when it was lower, and they never quite got there. But, by the way, I got to get this off my chest. We had a lot of people comment, mainly Arizona State fans, comment on your After Dark video the other day, who just chose to react after the game, and I'm sure a couple of cold barley pops were had, but they chose to react after the game. I hate this on social media. I absolutely hate it. I'm okay with shit talk. It's part of what makes sports fun. But if you're one of those people that just scours social media after games and you want to jump in people's timelines and stuff like that and just go, update, like, bro, come up with something creative. Because we had, I'm not kidding. I remember sharing this with you guys. It's still going as we're speaking now. People that listen to literally the first thing that TJ said in his After Dark video, that he picked Baylor at the beginning of the year in our college football kickoff show to win the Big 12, and they could make a big statement tonight by winning that game against Arizona State. That's what TJ said. So after the game, I wake up on Sunday morning, I'm getting our Sunday stuff ready, and I'm a little bleary-eyed because I found the Mountain West app where you can watch games for free, and projected it to my big TV in the studio here, and was watching Hawaii and Fresno until 12:45 West Coast time. And I'm seeing all these comments, and it's like, update, that didn't work out very well for you. Update. Hey, if you want an update, go to freaking ESPN.com. If you want to talk shit, talk shit. But watch the whole damn video.
Here's your update. I got the road dog. Cram it up your cram hole, LaFleur.
Exactly.
I did my job. Now go do yours.
Reading is fundamental. So a lot of fun stuff in the interactions with that. We did have a couple of people go, "Oh damn, my bad, I didn't watch." Yeah, you didn't watch it till the end of the video. My first highlight of the weekend, guys, is Ruben Bain is an absolute freaking menace, and most people would not expect this to come out of my mouth, but I am going to say it right here with a public audience. That's exactly true, man. Mama Mac's on one tonight. Ruben Bain's a menace, and I will publicly say this. The U is all the way back. That Miami team is very, very damn good. And you can say what you want to say about Florida's lack of offensive creativity from Billy Napier, and it does look like rage coloring the way they just run bubble screen after bubble screen after bubble screen, and no pass can go down the field at all. But a lot of that had to do with Miami's defense. These guys on defense, and it's all led by Ruben Bain, are animals. They are all over the freaking field. And for a team that doesn't leave the state of Florida until November 1st, I think it is time that we take a good hard look at what this Miami team's put together and what Mario Cristobal is actually building down there in Coral Gables. And that defense, man, is all over the place. And they're going to obviously get tested in their next game against Florida State. Great to see those two teams both looking like they're going to be very, very good this year, because we talk about it all the time, guys. Villains are great in sports, and Miami and Florida State fit that bill when it comes to college football better than most people do. Now, who knows? And shout out to the ACC for this genius scheduling. Miami plays one game in the next 20 days. The hell is that? But if you've got a team that's as talented as Miami, and you're going to go in and you played South Florida and you beat their ass. You played Florida and you beat their ass, and now you have a chance to win the Florida State Championship by playing Florida State. A 20-day layoff before and after that game is massively advantageous for the Hurricanes, Mac.
Absolutely. You know, I mean, I'm going to have a little bit more to say about them in our next little segment. But one of the things we talk about, and you kind of mentioned it, is that there are certain teams that when they're good for the sport. You know, we'll take baseball, for example. When the Yankees are good, it's good for the sport. Or the Dodgers, you know, those type of teams. You know, and hockey, when the Canadians are good, it's good for the game. College football, it's the same thing. When Alabama's good, when the University of Florida is good, it makes for better football. It just does.
Check back in on that last part in 2027. What do you think of the Canes so far, T?
They're a juggernaut right now, and I don't see anybody who's going to stop them at this point. The Florida State matchup is intriguing because of how absolutely horse bleep Florida State was last year. Mm-hmm. And so to see their turnaround this year is very interesting, for lack of a better term. But I'm looking forward to this matchup against Miami, because I think we're going to find out who the real contender is and who's a pretender. Yeah. And I think the pretender is going to be somebody close to your heart.
North Florida Community College, baby. And other nicknames that even though we're on YouTube, I will not put out there in the algorithm. T, why don't you you've got a conference that's kind of very wowing you as far as highlights of the weekend go. Why don't you lay that one out for us?
Dude, it's the Big 12. I think people are sleeping on this conference. The games that the Big 12, the big games that the Big 12 were involved in. And look, somebody's going to throw out, well, Colorado played Wyoming, blah, 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 blah. I'm like, yeah, that's nice. But at the top of this conference, you got Iowa State, who's legit. You got Texas Tech, who's probably got the best team in the conference that money can buy. You got Houston, who's no pushover. You got ASU, and you got a resurgent Kansas team that I don't think is going to go away like they did last year. You got BYU, TCU, Central Florida, Arizona, all undefeated. These are good football teams. I think this conference is going to be great from top to bottom. And I think if you're not tuning in for that 10 a.m. Mountain kickoff, maybe that's why Utah lost. It didn't get enough time to get greased on Saturday. But if you're not tuning in for that 10 a.m. Mountain kickoff every week, I think you're missing out.
2-1, man. 2-1. Mac, give me another one of your highlights from the weekend. Maybe it's a
Highlight.
low light.
Yeah, I was gonna say this one's kind of a low light because I really, backed the Brinks truck into this one last week. I was all into Nebraska. This was their big week, and man, oh man, they went out like a smelly fart, is what they did. It was awful. I mean, they had some opportunities early in this game to score. They did not. And the bottom line is you took the L in a game that you really needed to win to show not just me, but I think the fans in Nebraska that this team is back and I don't know where they go from here.
I'll tell you where they go. They've lost 28 in a row against ranked opponents. So look, I think this is a game that last year they would have got blown the bejesus out of. I think this program is growing. I think they're on the right track. I think that Hail Mary was a very good stroke of luck for them and kept them in the game. But I think Nebraska's not too far away. I think they're past the Bruno Caboclo plan. I think they're closer than 2 years away from being 2 years away. But, I mean, it is disappointing because 28 times in a row, you have crapped the bed against a ranked opponent. And that's something that Matt Rule's got to fix.
I hate this part about the Big 19 scheduling. Like, I'm looking ahead, just peeking ahead at what Nebraska has coming up. And not only do we not have game times, and we get how that works for the TV networks and everything, but we don't even have game days on some of these right now. Their next 3 games, as far as the Cornhuskers go, Michigan State, and then they're at Maryland, a very good Maryland team, and then they're at Minnesota. That one is confirmed for October 17th at 5 o'clock on Fox. But again, we don't have dates and times for most of them. I do agree with you, T. I mean, I do think that's a game they get the doors blown off of them. They had a chance late to come back, but they put themselves in a position where they had to recover an onside kick. And, those are... We know what the averages are on those things. I was pretty impressed with their resiliency and their time to come back and their opportunities getting back in the game. But yeah, they dug themselves a hole. They just couldn't get a freaking stop in the ground game at all, and it put them in the spot. And Max got a permanent marker out again.
Here we go. I got to do it. If we're going to be Nebraska, it's got to be Nebraska volleyball, baby. Nebraska volleyball. Forget the football. All about the volleyball in Nebraska. Just give it up. We already know the volleyball team can sell out the football stadium. We saw them do it last year. Just drop the football program. Play volleyball.
Take his permanent markers away. I'm going to finish this up on our highlights here before we have a little top 4 discussion. Feel free to comment along if you're watching along, especially in our next little segment here. We're going to drop our top 4 teams a week before the MAC-12 comes out next Tuesday morning. My second one, fantastic game between Oklahoma and Auburn, and it came at a cost for Oklahoma that we didn't actually find out until a couple of hours ago, as John Mateer has a broken hand, and he had surgery on that broken hand, and he's looking to probably be out about 4 weeks. Well, if you do the timeline on that and you know what's coming up at the Cotton Bowl, that could put him out of the Cotton Bowl, and I think a lot of people wanted to see Mateer and Manning, especially because Mateer was the Heisman frontrunner. The interesting thing about this, and hearing some of the chatter on it after it came out today that he did have the broken hand, he was 24 of 36 for 271 yards and a touchdown. Apparently, he broke his hand in the first quarter and played the rest of the game through it. And he did. There was some times, and I heard an interview with Greg McElroy today, who was on the call. There was some times that he looked a little shaky, but this is a big loss for Oklahoma. Now, most people are going to go, screw it, Oklahoma's done. That defense, I just talked about Miami's defense. That defense at Oklahoma is a classic Brett Venables, get after your ass, sack the quarterback, create pressure kind of defense. Anytime you lose your starting quarterback, it's a big deal. But for Oklahoma, when you look ahead at their schedule in the games that Mateer could miss, well, obviously the game against Kent State, you would assume that they could get through that one. Kent State's everybody's punching bag right now. And then the game on the 11th of October against Texas. After that, South Carolina, and then a home game against Ole Miss, and then at Tennessee, at Alabama, versus Missouri, versus LSU. They've got a hell of a finish to their schedule, and they could be looking out at no Mateer at least through the Kent State, Texas, and at South Carolina games. A big loss for the Sooners today, Mac.
Yeah, that definitely doesn't help. You don't want to lose your star quarterback like that. But I mean, kudos to him though for getting through that game. I mean, we've seen guys with, lesser injuries than that not want to play. So, tip of the cap to him for that. That's pretty good. But like I said, Oklahoma, and you mentioned it, Mike, it's their defense. And, if their defense can, hold teams down a little bit, then they may not have to score as much. And like I said, if you're a good program, like I said with Texas Tech, if you've got a good program, you got somebody who can take his place. So we'll have to wait and see how that works. And why not? You got Kent State. That's a perfect team to put 70 up on. So that you're going to have a quarterback that can go out there and you kind of get him accustomed to what you need to do in that type of setting.
Yeah, plenty of fun stuff there. All right, it's time to talk a little top fours. And again, for those of you new to the program, thank you. Welcome in. Happy that you're here. When Mac puts out his Mac 12 rankings, we give you the top 12 teams, and it's not all 12 of them every week. We'll obviously get into a little more long form about it on our Tuesday night programs, but that'll go out on our social channels at Mike Arana Show, everywhere but Snapchat. T for the newbies. Why are we not on Snapchat?
Because Snapchat sucks and we're not 12.
Exactly. We're not 12, ironically. So every week what we do is TJ and I will send our top 12 to Mac, and it's up to Mac in his surfer boy get up to kind of filter through those and put out what is our Mac 12. And some weeks he'll just highlight where we have points of contention amongst the three of us. Some weeks he's going to give you the top side of it. Some weeks he's going to give you the bottom side. As customary, he will kind of blow through all 12 of them in next week's Mac 12 layout. So I figured tonight would be a good night as we come into a massive weekend of college football. And we're not just talking about the two headliner games here when we say that with Penn State and Oregon and Ohio State's at Washington. USC's at Illinois, and this is what I'm getting at, is we're getting into some of these games. Obviously, the other big one is Alabama and Georgia, but you also have a lot of other very good games. Tennessee's at Mississippi State. Indiana, can they follow it up as they travel to Iowa after pounding Illinois? Illinois, do they bounce back against USC? You've got Auburn at Texas A&M. You've got LSU at Ole Miss, which, thanks to Lane Kiffin's daughter, has just gotten very, very, very interesting. Publicly announces her relationship on Instagram with linebacker of LSU, Whit Weeks, the week of the LSU Ole Miss game, and appropriately timed because tomorrow night on the Four Letter is a documentary E60 style on the many lives of Lane Kiffin. I can't wait to watch this friggin' game now. But let's concentrate on where we're all leaning right here, guys. Let's go around the room and kind of drop our top fours, and we'll kind of take the conversation from there. And because it is the Mac 12, I will start with Surfer Mac in the middle. Give me your top four if you had to drop the rankings right now.
All right, so I'm going to start obviously at number 4. It would be Florida State. We know what they've done. One big win, one just absolute blowout. So I got them in the 4th spot. LSU is going to be my number 3 team. My number 2 team is Oklahoma. I think they deserved it with the wins that they've had so far. I don't care about an injury to a quarterback right now. It's what you've done so far. And my number 1 team is the University of Miami. They deserve it. I think, as T said, that they'll be in that spot until somebody, maybe FSU, dethrones them.
Feel free to drop your top 4 in the comments, or tell one of us we're out of our freaking minds if you disagree with something here, because that's what makes sports fantastic. TJ, give me your top 4.
Well, I'll tell you who's not going to drop Miami out of that position, and it's Clemson, because they're crap. Jiminy Christmas. Look, I've got 4-1 here. I've got Oregon at 4. I got Penn State at 3, Miami at 2, and Ohio State.
Ooh.
I got that Oklahoma State Baylor game on my mind already. Ohio State at number 1.
If you were sleeping under a rock today, speaking of Oklahoma State, Mike Gundy, after 21 years, was told thanks, but no thanks, and sent out of town. Interesting stat here, and I hope people will, after the dust kind of clears about this, give Mike Gundy his credit that I think he absolutely deserves. Oklahoma State football was dog shit before Mike Gundy took over that program. He had 2 losing seasons in his entire tenure at Oklahoma State, his first year and this year. I mean, that's how good of a job he did, a winning percentage over 650. And we talk about this all the time. It just comes, there's times when a new voice is needed. And according to their athletic director, who I don't believe has a new contract as of right now, this was in the best interest of the future of Oklahoma State football. It'll be interesting to see what happens with Mike Gundy, because we know there's going to be quite a few jobs open. Hell, Clemson could be open. Florida could be open. We already know Virginia Tech's open. Bruce Arians part of that search committee to fill that coaching vacancy. Gotta love BA there, but it's going to be some interesting stuff, and there will be some interesting names rumored for that job, because there is a decent amount of money behind that program, but sometimes a voice just gets a little... It's time for a new voice. So I'll go 4-1 to follow your guys' lead. My 4 spot is Oregon, the Ducks. I think they've looked fantastic. I've also seen them get to go on the road against a conference opponent where they looked very good against Northwestern. We saw them absolutely pound Oklahoma State. Say what you want about the Cowboys. That's not like you're playing a Kent State or hell, like a UMass or somebody like that. And then they handled the Beavers, and I know the Beavers aren't very good, but I think the body of work there for Oregon, I've seen them beat up on the teams that they should beat up on. I've seen them go win a tough road game. Obviously, this weekend is very tough. Georgia is my number 3 team, and I'm going to say, I'll be perfectly honest, it's really because of how they handled the Tennessee game and why I think Georgia deserves to be in a top 4 and towards the top. Obviously, they have a huge test this weekend. Miami's my 2. Again, I think that defense is fantastic. I think the thing that's going to hurt the perception of Miami is how South Florida finishes the year, and they beat up on a bad Florida team. And that Florida team is not going to help anybody in a win-loss column kind of debate. And then I've got Ohio State 1, and it's really because of how they handled the game against Texas. Obviously, this weekend's an interesting test for the Buckeyes. They go all the way out to Seattle. It is a conference game, not the easiest place in the world to play, so we're going to get to see Julian Sayin in kind of an adverse situation for the first time and see how the Buckeyes handle that. But that's my top 4. Penn State, I think, is a team of kind of consternation here. And, when we were talking Heisman's last week, T, and you mentioned, you think Drew Aller's going to rise to the occasion, and Penn State fans hope he really does. But, I seemingly just can't put a team in the top 4 that really hasn't totally dominated a schedule that's given them FIU, Nevada, and Villanova. Like, I'm not high on this Nittany Lions team. If they can get the job done this weekend, sure, I'll give them a hell of a lot more respect, because that Drew Aller is going to be tested this weekend. That Oregon defense is really damn good. So,
well, yeah, I mean, this is going to be one of those. I mean, and we've talked ad nauseum in the last seasons about James Franklin and his record against top 10 teams, but like, it's time. It's time. This team is veteran loaded. It should be the team that could fight for a national title this year, and you can certainly start by beating Oregon at home.
Mac, I'm gonna look at one of yours here real quick. I'll let you finish that point. Sorry, but
okay.
You have LSU in there at 3, and I'm not going to speak for you, T. Mac put them in his top 4, so I'll give him a chance to answer first. But LSU's got 2 wins over Clemson and over Florida. Their defense has looked really good. Their offense still looks completely disjointed to me, and that's why I didn't put them in the top 4. What's your case for LSU being in the top 4?
I mean, we have to start with Clemson. I mean, when they won that game against Clemson, everyone was thinking this is a team in Clemson that could win a national championship. I mean, they were one of the top teams at the beginning of the year. Obviously, that a little bit of that paint has been taken off of that. But listen, they're doing what they have to do. You can say what you want, and I know you're a Florida fan, but when LSU plays Florida, that's still going to be a tough game. It's just the way that it is. I just like their toughness on defense. I mean, you look, they've played 4 games, and from a defensive standpoint, the most points they've given up is 10 points. I don't care what your opponent is, that's still playing pretty good defense. From that standpoint, as we talked about, we know they have tools on the offense. They have Heisman candidates on their offense. I think it's just a matter of time before that offense kind of kicks it in. With their defense the way they're playing, I just think that's where they go. And here's the other thing. If you look at some of the other teams, like, I'll just kind of handpick a couple. I mean, I don't think Penn State's kind of played anybody and has that resume yet. I don't think Oregon even has the resume yet. I mean, they've played. Oh, they've played well, but I don't think they've had anybody. We still have to give, LSU the fact that they beat Clemson and they beat Florida. Those are still two pretty good teams. Yeah, they may be in a down year, but still, overall, they're still better teams than what some of these other teams have played to this point. And my second point was going to be, listen, the great thing about R12 is that when we talk again next week, 3 or 4 of these teams might not even be in our top 4. We're going to watch the games and see how they play. I mean, darn it, if Penn State, blows the doors out of Oregon, or Oregon blows the doors out of Penn State, I mean, Oregon could be my number 1 or number 2 team. That's the great thing about what we're doing is, we're not strung on, well, we got to follow this or follow that. It's kind of what we see and what we feel, and that's what we put out there.
Hey, I'll give you the final word on the college football weekend, and then we'll transition to some NFL here.
Well, I mean, there's certainly some games to watch. I'm probably going to be focused on channel flipping between Oregon, Penn State, and Alabama, Georgia. I think those are going to be the two that give us the most bona fides here as far as teams that are going to go into the next round and maybe head to the playoff.
There you go, Billy V checking in. And I think that is the case for a lot of people with LSU, and that's what makes this part of the year fantastic. As the Guardians 2 outs away from pulling even in the AL Central with the Detroit freaking Tigers, and this game's also important for Cleveland because all Cleveland had to do in this series is win one of these 2, and you're going, well, they need to win more than that because they want to win the division. No, all they needed to do at a minimum was win one of these 2. And they'll hold the tiebreaker over the Tigers. Cleveland finishes with Texas in Cleveland. Detroit has to play the Red Sox after this. So this is they got the one they absolutely needed first, and they're doing it when Skubal went out. And my questions on the Tigers have been the same all year. Is the pitchers after Skubal? And right now, perfect example, their Wednesday or their Thursday starter is a question mark right now. Mac's favorite pitcher, Thibodeau. So let's move into the NFL here, guys. Interesting weekend on the NFL gridiron. It started Thursday with a way better game than I think a lot of us kind of expected in that Buffalo-Miami game. Finished last night with a fantastic game between the Lions and the Ravens. Let's go through, and we should probably start with some trust issues here because now that we've gotten 3 weeks in, I think there's some teams that have really kind of opened our eyes to trust or don't trust here. Let's start with Mac this time.
Well, I want to give kudos to the Miami Dolphins for making it off my trust list this week, not by a lot, but they are not on my trust list for the 3rd week. But the Texans, what the hell is going on with the Texans? I mean, this is a team that we have slotted for the first playoff spot, on Wild Card Weekend. They have an offense that has not shown up. We thought C.J. Stroud last year was the sophomore jinx, if you will. Houston, there is a problem. Their defense is okay, but Mike T, you got to help me out here. What is going on with the Texans on their offense? I mean, is it a scheme thing? Is it, is CJ Stroud just not that good? I mean, there's a lot of things here. I don't like the trend of the Texans right now. And I'm going back to last year. Yeah, I know they made the playoffs, but this is not a good Texans team right now.
I think they thought they addressed their offensive line in the offseason, and trading away arguably your best offensive lineman doesn't necessarily tell me that you've addressed your offensive line. And I think that's the biggest part of the problem with the Texans right now is their O-line looks just worse, if that was even possible, than they were last year. And there we go. I think it starts with their offensive line. I think Christian Kirk has kind of been a non-factor in their offense so far. Obviously, they're not going to have Tank Dell for probably the majority of the year. The Joe Mixon thing, can Nick Chubb being every down back like they're trying to use him? Woody Marks has been okay in spelling Chubb here and there, but their offensive line is shitty. I
mean, they had 87 yards rushing against Jacksonville. God Jesus, we know how Jacksonville is. They're the most disappointing team in the league. They're the Clemson of pro football.
D, I'm
Well,
going to
that's
drop this one
appropriate.
on you before you share your thoughts on the Texans situation, because this is one of those things that you and I love to do. One of my friends told me that Trevor Lawrence is to him like the NBA's version of Andrew Wiggins, and now I can't unsee it. And it's like, we'll get to Jacksonville, I'm sure, a little bit tomorrow. But what do you make of the Texans situation, T?
They just stink on offense right now. I didn't watch too much of last week's game, but I watched that game against Tampa Bay, and they just couldn't seem to get anything going. And then once they got something going at the end, they gacked it right up. 32nd in points, 32nd in third down conversions, 23rd in rushing, 26th in passing. I mean, can you get any? Well, you probably could. I know a team that's almost as bad, but if you're like you said, Mike, if you're relying on changing your offensive line and switching players out, and you get a product that's worse than what you started with, then you're in a lot of trouble. And man, you know what? I don't know what I'm going to do at 1:30 on that first Saturday if the Texans aren't there, because I'm going to have to actually do something instead of know that the Texans are going to play some pitiful game and win 13-9 and move on to the next week to get clobbered.
You might be watching Indiana Jones and Jonathan Taylor and the Colts in that spot. Just keep it in the same division. Keep it in the family. T, give me one of your teams you've got trust issues with.
It's the Denver Broncos. I'm high on the Broncos coming into this year, and they had a chance to blow that game open against the Chargers. And when they scored, and then they got the turnover on the kickoff, they had a very short field, could have taken it right down there and pretty much knocked the Chargers right out of the game. And instead, the offense I don't know if it's just the sophomore slump for Bo Nix, or if the league is catching up to him, maybe a little column A, a little column B, but it just didn't look like the Broncos could get anything going. And in that, after they took the lead, they just kind of went Captain Conservo, and they let the Chargers right back into the game.
Yeah. That Chargers team, I'm not 100% sold on them yet, because I'm expecting them to charger. But when you come out of the gates 3-0 and all 3 wins are against your division, that puts you in a hell of a position going forward. My first one, guys, is the Green Bay Packers. And how many times on this very program have I said that I don't think Jordan Love is ready for the big moment yet, and he proved it yet again on Sunday. And you can tell me all you want that wins are not a quarterback stat, but when your all-world quarterback behind your all-world defense is as pedestrian as 18 of 25 for $183, a touchdown and a pick, Jordan Love had an opportunity in a big-time game against a big-time team. As far as defense goes, I know Cleveland's offense leaves a lot to be desired, but he had a chance to make a statement this weekend, and pedestrian is probably the only way I can describe what he did this weekend. They fall to the Browns in Cleveland, and that Cleveland defense is really good. Let's be fair here. 242 yards a game was what they allowed through their first 2 games. They allowed 230 on Sunday in beating the Packers. But again, that's kind of my thing is you're going to go through these moments in your season. You're going to have opportunities to dispel the narrative about you. And here we go in another game where the Packers needed their quarterback to make big-time plays, especially down the stretch, and he failed to do so. And you can tell me that defense is borderline historic all you want to, but until Jordan Love shows me that he's consistently going to be what everybody talks about him to be, I'm going to have trust issues with the Packers, because it could just be another season where they end up losing at Lambeau, likely to the 49ers again.
Isn't it interesting that we're starting, and it's, we could add a couple of quarterbacks to this list, but we see these young quarterbacks, they come out, they do really, really well, and then all of a sudden we're starting to see a lot of regression in them. And I don't really know if it's regression or if it's just, they kind of take the first year everybody by storm, and they're it's just new. We see it in other sports as well. Then all of a sudden the league kind of catches up to it. You see it in baseball a lot as well. Young kid comes up, he hits well at the beginning, and all of a sudden they go, oh, can this kid hit a curveball? No, he can't hit a curveball. And so there's that adjustment. So it's the true professionals, the really good players. I mean, here's a good example. Look at Carson Wentz. That's somebody who can just kind of come in and he just kind of picks it up, and like he never left. Those are the guys that you really look at. But you're starting to see a lot of these second and third year quarterbacks. Again, I don't want to use the word regression, but I think the league's just kind of catching up to them a little bit.
Yeah, plus 8,000 by the way on Carson Wentz for comeback player of the year. Just in case you were into sports investing, I may or may not have already bet on that today. I looked all week to try and bet on it last week. He ain't giving that job back. T, give me the second team you've got trust issues with in the NFL.
I think it's the Philadelphia Eagles. I think that I think they're a fraud, man. I don't think this team is missing something. And I'm sorry, man. If your claim to fame is just running the freaking butt play and being successful at it all the time, then your team's got issues. Like, I like the pass to Dennis Goddard. That was a nice play. But look, all they do, this whole team's offense is the butt play. That's all it is. It's the butt play. And eventually they're not going to have that anymore because it's going to go away. I have not been impressed with Jalen Hurts this season at all. AJ Brown is just freaking disappeared on offense. I think that they are, I don't know if it's a hangover from the Super Bowl. I know the Rams are a little bit better than we expected, but if the Eagles play like they played on Sunday, they're going to get the shit beat out of them on Sunday. Yeah,
it's interesting. And, like your point on AJ Brown, I mean, he had a good game finally this week, but he's been a non-factor. And Drew Brees said this today, and I thought maybe it was just me, but when a Hall of Fame quarterback says it, then you're not crazy. The Eagles' offense is boring. I mean, it really is if you break it down. There's not a whole lot of creativity there. Son of a bitch, Jordan Davis, fall down. There was 0 point in you running that back for a touchdown, said all of us with Rams plus 3.5 tickets. Why run it back? You blocked it. I was like, as soon as I saw him start running, I'm like, you son of a, I hope somebody strips this. Leon lets you. Then they pick it up. They run it all the way down for a touchdown. But yeah, I think Philly's offense lacks a lot of creativity. And I thought it was just crazy in watching them. We know the thing with the Eagles is the butt play, like you were just talking about. But like, their offense is really just kind of basic and plain Jane. And I get it. They're winning games. Like, I understand. Eagles fans are going to come all over us now. That didn't come out the right way. They're going to come all after us right now. But it's a boring damn offense. I don't like how Max, ironically, very quiet in the middle there, because that means his brain is turning. But yeah, I can totally see how you wouldn't trust the Eagles. Absolutely. And it'll be interesting this weekend because they're playing a team that I know Mac is going to talk about in a second. Yeah, thanks. Hey, it's live, so whatever comes out of my mouth, then here we go. Mac, why don't you take the steering wheel for this before I drive us further into the ground and tell me who your second team you've got trust issues with is. Unmute your microphone first.
We don't.
Yeah, you didn't want to hear what I said. The Atlanta Falcons. I mean,
good God.
Carolina, 30-0. The Panthers. I don't care if it was on the road. I don't care if it was overseas. I don't care where it is. It was Carolina, 30-0. I'm really disappointed. I really hyped up Atlanta at the beginning of the year. I like what they had. I like Bijan Robinson. I mean, first week he goes out, gets 100 yards receiving, not even running the ball. And I'm thinking, okay, they played a tough Tampa team. They actually win in Minnesota. I'm thinking, okay, this is all right. No, 30-0. Not is 0. And so again, I'm gonna go to that quarterback spot. I don't know if Michael Penix is the answer. I haven't seen it yet. I have a lot of questions about Michael Penix and his ability not to run the offense, but to get this offense to score points. I mean, any points. I mean, a damn field goal would be nice. Nothing. They couldn't even get the ball, past like the 30 or 40-yard line for most of the game. So this is a team that it's kind of funny. The two teams, both the Texans and the Falcons that I picked, I'm like, they need to, figure out, offensive Scrabble, put all the plays in a bag and pull out a play, do something, because whatever you're doing right now is not working. You cannot go on the road and get embarrassed like that against Carolina. No shade to Carolina, but damn, that is, for a team that's supposed to be a playoff team, that was pathetic.
We've got stinky wet farts, offensive Scrabble, and then what I just said 2 minutes ago have all come out, and we're not even done on the show. Have all been said out. I'm just not going to say the general word anymore, period. My second team I've got trust issues with, guys, is the Baltimore Ravens. Last night's game was fantastic. Yes. It was a lot of fun to watch, no doubt about it, the best game of the year. It sucks because we got that game before next week's Monday night doubleheader, which is Jets and Dolphins and Jake Browning against the Broncos. I mean, don't just give us 2 games, give us 2 shitty games, and that'll make it even better. But the Ravens have issues, man. This is a team that's given up over 400 yards on the ground in 3 games. They got absolutely gashed by Sonic and Knuckles last night. Somebody out there somewhere miraculously has a 2 touchdowns for Gibbs, 2 touchdowns for Montgomery, and 2 touchdowns for Andrews parlay ticket last night. They're probably not watching because they're on a boat in the islands somewhere, but this Ravens defense looks very, very, very uncomfortable. And now your freight train at running back seemingly can't hold on to the damn football, especially late in games. I think the Ravens will be just fine on offense. I don't have any issues. Derrick Henry's a pro. He's a veteran. He'll get it figured out. You could see how much it was wearing on him last night in the reaction after that fumble. But this defense for Baltimore, I've got a lot of question marks. And I know with Matabike out and Kyle Van Noy out, that's going to make a big difference for them. And hopefully whatever's wrong with their defense fixes itself when those two come back. But this Ravens defense, has just been downright dreadful so far.
No, they sucked last night. There's no other way around it. In the past, when Baltimore would need a stop, you would get a stop out of them. And last night they couldn't freaking cover a cold kid with a blanket. It was horrible. And okay. First of all, that 4th down play was freaking ballsy as hell. Yeah. That pass to St. Brown was freaking incredible. I was jumping up and down because of how ballsy the play was. But like, that's a game that's in 2 seasons ago, 3 seasons ago. That's a stop. And they're not getting these stops now. And they're not getting the stops late when they need them. This is a team that was basically, a few plays away from being 3-0. And now look at them now. It's you got all these questions.
But
yeah, it's amazing. Go ahead. You're Mr. AFC North, so I know you've got some thoughts on this.
Yeah, I never cry when Baltimore loses, but I will say, if you look at it, their 2 losses are to the Bills and to Detroit. It's not like they're losing to the Carolina Panthers, So you're talking about 2 pretty damn good offensive teams that they're going up against. And again, the calling card for Baltimore most of the time has been their defense. I still love their offense. I think their offense is going to do a lot of good things, but even their offense doesn't seem to be clicking as much again. They talk about a team that has offensive line problems. I think the Ravens has some offensive line problems as well, because Lamar got attacked pretty good last night.
Yeah, he did. What's up, Herb?
Hey.
Well, okay, to be fair, I don't think TJ, because he had a really busy weekend
Come on,
for the
Herb.
most part, and then he was trying to catch up. I don't think TJ's seen the end of the program from Friday yet, so once TJ sees that, I don't know if they'll be getting along very well. But hey, Max, since you are Mr. Permanent Marker, and it looks like you have your permanent marker book there, can you go back to the permanent marker page from last Wednesday night's program on
No, I
Lamar
cannot.
Jackson? Because I wanted you to update it. You know, I picked the Lions when we were. I picked the Lions last Wednesday night when we talked about this game, and I went out on the Monday Night Mike part of our programming on our social channels last night and decided to take the Ravens to cover the spread because some jackass held up a 24-2 against the NFC team sign last night, and I changed my pick. Which, I mean, who knows? I can't find my ass from a hole in the ground on Mondays and Thursdays right now. Interesting stuff. Major League Baseball update for you. As before we get into liquid locks, because I have one that does pertain to baseball. The Mets have now pulled even with the Cubs at 6. They were down big and down early in that game. As we mentioned off the top, the Guardians and Tigers are now tied at the top of the Central. The Reds, who control their own destiny in the wild card race in the National League, dropped one at home to the Pirates tonight, 4-2. Yeah. Diamondbacks in action at Chase Field here in about 12 minutes against the Dodgers. They still have life. The Giants, I mean, technically still kind of have life. They're playing the Cardinals tonight. But a bad loss for the Reds and a bad loss for Detroit as they continue to reel and hot baseball teams, guys. We talk about this all the time. You get hot at this time of year, it is deadly, and that's exactly what's happened with this Cleveland team. And we could be looking at a possible scenario here, guys. And I'm trying not to jump the shark on this, if you will, but we could be looking at a scenario here where I'd have to check the tiebreakers here because I don't know what the tiebreaker is between Detroit and Houston. We could be looking at a scenario where this Tigers team misses the playoffs entirely here if this doesn't correct itself. Again, I don't know who has the tiebreaker between Detroit and Houston. I know that Cleveland has it over both Detroit and Houston now. We could be talking about a Tigers team that misses the damn playoffs entirely. Like, you would have said that in the middle of the summer, somebody would have told you were absolutely high.
Mm-hmm. The Tigers had the tiebreaker. They took 4 of 6 from the Astros.
Okay. All right. So a little bit of breathing room there for Detroit as far as the Astros go. But the Astros, I mean, this is crazy right now. I'm looking at the American League standings. The Red Sox are up right now 4-1 in the 8th. But they're 4-6 in their last 10. The Tigers 1-9 in their last 10, 7 losses in a row. The Astros 5-5 in their last 10, coming off of getting swept by the Mariners. The Rangers 3-7 in their last 10. They've also lost 7 in a row. The Royals 4-6 in their last 10. They've lost just the 1 game in a row so far. I mean, just a week ago we were talking about, does anybody want that last wild card spot in the National League? And now we're saying the same damn thing about the American League. Like, this is insanity here to finish the season. Let's get into some liquid locks because I'll be able to circle this back to baseball. Actually, quickly, our highlights of the weekend. I forgot. We spent so much time on trust issues here. Let's fire through this one real quick. Mac, give me your highlight of the weekend.
It's the Colts offensive machine, baby. The Indianapolis Colts just continue to roll week after week. I mean, I know you didn't think they were a playoff team, but I'm telling you, they're contenders, baby. They're contenders.
We talk about the Mac-12 and why we don't put it out until after week 5 of the college football season. Same thing with our NFL Power Pyramid that'll come out on our Wednesday shows. It'll come out Wednesday morning on a video, and then it'll come out on our Wednesday shows. But, we don't put it out for 5 weeks because you don't really know what to make of anything. I think this Colts team is very intriguing. I think they're definitely playing for the late Jim Irsay. You can see that. They're kind of galvanized there, much like we talked about with the Brewers and Bob Uecker earlier this year. Mm-hmm. We're going to find out a lot about the Colts. This weekend they head out to Los Angeles, which will be one of their 2 trips out to Los Angeles to play both the teams that house themselves in SoFi. And they also have a game where they travel to Pittsburgh. So I think over the next month here, we're really going to find out if the Colts are exactly that it team this year. TJ, give me your highlight of the weekend.
Man, I continue to be impressed with, as my buddy Brado calls them, the cardiac bucks. And it just seems that Baker Mayfield, the more you watch him play with that Tampa Bay offense, the more that you know that he is the perfect fit Remember, he was on like 4 teams in a year or two. He got bounced out of Cleveland. They bounced him out of Carolina. He had a couple of big wins with the Rams, but they bounced him out. And he's got a home now in Tampa. And I couldn't be happier for the dude. He's a great dude. He does a lot for the community. And this team just is finding ways to pull games out of their rear end. Should they have lost a couple of them? Probably. But they didn't. And that's what mattered. I think this game coming up Sunday against Philadelphia is going to be bananas.
I agree, T. I mean, he just seems like he's the kind of guy that, you always say, you'd run through a wall for. He just seems like he's that guy. And talk about trust. I really don't have any trust issues with him. I love watching him play. He's really matured, struggled early on in his career, but man, he has really matured into a really good, solid NFL quarterback.
Yeah, and I mentioned this in my blog this morning when talking about Tampa specifically. T, you mentioned, they should have lost a couple of these games. First time in NFL history, the first team in the modern era, as they call it, the Super Bowl era, to come back from behind in the final minute when they were trailing. They've done it 3 times this year. It's the first team that's ever done that already. Obviously, Mike Evans, another hamstring injury. He's going to be out for a few games, but they're expected to get Tristan Wirfs back. They're expected to get Chris Godwin back for that game this weekend. They've got an embarrassment of riches on offense, and I think it's about time that some of us actually take a long, hard look at some betting odds. And with the way the season's kind of started right now, I think you can make a serious case for Baker Mayfield not even having all of the weapons at his disposal yet to be in the MVP conversation if this were to continue like this. Again, with the Bucs, much like we were talking about with the Colts, we're going to find out a lot about the Bucs over their next 4 games because they play Philadelphia this weekend. They've also got to play at Detroit. They play San Francisco in there. And then there's another tough one that I can't remember off the top of my head, just in their next 4 games. So hopefully they can get Mike Evans back in the fold because I think we're all excited to see the Bucs offense with Godwin, with Irving, with Otton, with Evans, with Ekbuka, with Tristan Wirfs in their offensive line back. And you got to give Todd Bowles credit there as well. My highlight of the weekend, without question for me, is the Seattle Seahawks. I harped on how good of a coach I thought Mike McDonald was and was going to be last year. You saw the Seahawks really turn over their roster big time. Out is Tyler Lockett. Out is DK Metcalf, amongst others. Out is Ryan Grubb, who was an absolutely dreadful, atrocious offensive coordinator for them last year. And I know they played the Saints, and you're going to go, they should have beat the Saints. I get that. But we talk about it all the time. So you've got to handle the teams that are on your schedule, that you got to win the games that are in front of you. You have no control over the schedule whatsoever. And they basically put all their eggs in the Jackson Smith and Jigba kind of basket. And T, you'll appreciate this one because of the conference that he played college football in. But Torrey Horton gets his first 2 career touchdowns in the NFL, one on a kick return and one in the receiving angle. And the fact that John Schneider was able to get him in the 5th round, and they said, hey, Jackson Smith and Jigba is our number 1. We're going to start looking for these guys to fill the rest of the room there. And Torrey Horton, at least so far for the first 3 games, looks like he's going to be a hell of a weapon. Short week for them. They come to Arizona to play the Cardinals this week. I'm interested to see how they handle that one. But, they're one of 3 2-1 teams in the NFC West. Obviously, there's all kinds of issues going on with the top team in the NFC West and the 49ers, who are now, again, without Nick Bosa for the rest of the season here. But Seattle was very, very impressive to me this weekend. They were the team that really kind of stood out. My other one was obviously Tampa and what they were able to do. Mac, you've got one more highlight for the weekend. I know that you wanted to get out there, and then we'll get to some liquid locks here. Microphone.
Darn it.
That's $2.
All right.
$3 for that stupid hat you're wearing too.
Minnesota's hitting one of their tough spots in the schedule. A couple of really tough games coming up, and I think the fact that they have a veteran like Carson Wentz in there instead of their young quarterback JJ McCarthy, I think it's going to be better for Minnesota. We'll see what Minnesota does this week. I think they should be able to handle Pittsburgh pretty easily.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting one. I don't know about if they'll be able to handle Pittsburgh pretty easily, but Interesting game from the Steelers in New England last week. They forced 5 turnovers and they barely get the damn win. They had the ball moved all over them right now. And it's what's wrong with the Steelers? Is it on the offensive side? Is it on the defensive side? Now we're playing in Dublin this weekend. Vikings and Steelers. I know how much you love those games, TJ.
It's like at 4:00 in the morning here or something like
What
that.
a
Holy
farce. What a farce.
Let's get to some liquid locks, guys. And I told you that I told you I had a baseball one here, and shout out DraftKings because this was an available market there. I'm sure it is on other ones, but I saw the price on it. I looked at the tie-breaking scenarios. I looked at who's hot and who's not right now. So my first liquid lock is I took the Yankees to run down the Jays and the Guardians to run down the Tigers in a little two-teamer plus 1250. I think the road for the Yankees is very clearly paved, and I say that while they're losing to the White Sox 2-1 in the Bronx right now, and Toronto's losing as well. So if the Yankees can get fat against their remaining schedule here, and I think for the Yanks they'd have to catch the Jays going into the weekend, but I like the value on it at a plus 1250. So, I took it on a little two-teamer there with, yeah. I didn't want to have to be the one to say this, but yeah, I took the Tigers, or I took the Guardians to run down the Tigers and the Yankees to run down the Blue Jays. That's my first one here for equal balance. Let's, Tila, give me one of yours for this upcoming week. A number that you liked that you jumped on already.
I love the over in the Detroit-Cleveland game at 44.5 because the game's indoors, and I think this Lions offense is getting over their first week jitters. They've looked great the last 2 weeks. I know that the Cleveland defense is a tough defense, but I think that with the number of weapons that Goff has, and he showed last night that he can use all of them against a tough defense in Baltimore on the road, going back home, I think that they can cover this potentially on their own.
Matt, give me one of yours.
Friday Night Lights. That's our theme for this week. I like Houston minus 13.5 in their game.
That is a big number, but it should be an interesting one. Friday night college football games are always unpredictable, so I can't say I hate that one there. I'll give you guys my second one here, and then we'll go TJ to Mac to finish these up. I jumped on these the second that they were available. I even talked about this last Friday when Herb from the Herb and Raj podcast joined us. And again, when you like a number, you jump on a number. And for those of you that enjoy sports gambling, programming note here I'll get for you in a minute, but you're not going to want to miss Thursday's Lunchtime Live. But I jumped on both of these right away. Oregon to go into Happy Valley and shut down the Nittany Lions. I think it's the defense for Oregon against Drew Aller, who has not looked good against below subpar opponents this year. This is a whole different animal. And you can sit here and go, well, Penn State doesn't lose whiteout games. Yes, they do. It's been a little while, but it's not like they've never lost a damn whiteout game.
They do.
And I don't know if they've played a team in the whiteout game in the last couple of years that's been as talented as this Oregon team. So Oregon on the money line. The other part of that is I took Alabama on the money line. Jam Miller's back for the Tide this weekend. And this is make a statement about your job for Kalen DeBoer. Jam Miller being back in the fold for them opens up that offense a lot more. And I really thought that Tyrone Cornelius Simpson has played very, very well, even coming off of that Florida State game. And here's where I think the issue is for Georgia. Again, I thought Gunnar Stockton played really well in the game that they beat Tennessee. But Georgia's defensive backs are going to have their hands absolutely full with the talent that Alabama has at the skill positions, especially at wide receiver with Jeremy Bernard and Ryan Williams. And I think those DBs for Georgia are going to have a hard time running those guys down. So Oregon and Alabama both on the money line. I did also take them both with the points. But it's a plus 425. And I think both of those teams have a very good shot to get on the road and go get the job done. I don't even want to know why you're laughing. TJ, you go ahead and give me your second one. Or go ahead and tell us why you're laughing first. This ought to be
Because
interesting.
every time you say his name, all I can think of is the guy from Rudolph in the cartoon, Yukon Cornelius. That's
Hey,
all I
don't
can
come
think
after
of.
me with this. This is your boys, Herb and
I
Raj. They
know.
came up
Sorry,
with the
Herb.
nickname.
I know, but that's all I can think of is the dude from Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer.
I should have asked Herb and Raj if I could borrow the Tyrone Cornelius Simpson picture. Maybe I'll have to do that for tomorrow's show. But it's legendary in
I know.
Bama Nation
It is.
right
It
now.
is great.
All right, give me your second one.
We talked about these guys earlier. I'm taking, no joke. I'm taking Tampa Bay at home as a home dog on the money line, plus 170. I think they get it done against Philadelphia. I don't think if Philadelphia has to rely on the butt play, the game's going to be over really quick. Really quick.
Mac's having a hard time holding anything together today.
I'll tell you, it's the hat.
Come at me, bro.
No, I already did.
No, not after you said butt play. All right, Mac, give us your second one here for early numbers that you liked and you jumped on.
Like I said, I'm sticking with the theme. It's Friday Night Lights. I took all three games on Friday. I told you the Houston minus 13.5, Florida State minus 6.5 as well. And then we're going to the blackout down in Tempe. I'm taking ASU minus 2.5. So Friday Night Lights, got all three of them.
I'm sure the blackout won't just be with the clothing that the students are wearing in the student section. If you've ever been to Tempe, there'll be plenty of blackouts on Friday night. I actually took both of those games over the total. I think Florida State's going to just absolutely put a whooping on. But I think that ASU TCU game is going to be fantastic, and I think there's going to be a hell of a lot of points scored in that one. And ASU owes me one, and TJ won from last weekend anyway. So that being said, tomorrow we're going to jump right into what's left of the baseball playoff race. Obviously, games will be going on when we get on the air tomorrow. We won't have a visit from the commissioner this week. He's busy with the Dublin, Ireland game. We're trying to run him down internationally for next week's show. So we'll get into that. We'll look ahead at some of the games that we really like, some of the games that are going to be off the radar for this weekend. The Big Mac kickoff game Friday night on our social channels will be Illinois and USC from Champaign. I'll have Georgia and Bama. TJ will have Penn State and Oregon in After Dark. Make sure you watch the whole video this time to get his pick at the end of the video. We don't do that to make you watch the whole video. We give you reasons for why he's picking what he's picking, and he drops his pick at the end of the video. So don't come at us, bro, in the early parts of the video there. So we'll get into that. We'll look ahead at some of the good NFL games on the schedule this weekend. Thursday lunchtime live. It's going to be a little bit later. We're going to start at noon on the West Coast. Because the second half hour, I'm going to be joined. And again, I've told you guys about this. We mentioned it last week. If you're into sports gambling and you're new to sports gambling, because it is new in a lot of states where you're able to just do it off your phone now. And there's a lot of people in the social spaces that act like they're experts. And we've talked about this plenty of times, for somebody that touts you to be in their VIP, and then they put out bullshit like Jahmyr Gibbs anytime touchdown score for minus 120, and that's what you're paying for. That's not where you want to get your information. We have never claimed to be handicappers. We never will. We make our picks. We have some fun with it. We tell you why we pick, who we pick. And we're going to talk about some of those things in the space. We're going to talk a lot on Thursday, is in the second half hour of the program, about 12:30 on the West Coast, 3:30 on the East Coast. I'll be joined by sports gambling legend Bill Krackomberger, and you've probably seen him. If you haven't seen him, I don't know how into sports gambling you are, but you're going to want to see this, because we're going to dispel some myths. We're going to talk about some do's and don'ts. We're just going to have some fun and talk about the sports gambling world. Very, very fortunate and lucky to have Bill joining me on Thursday, and that's going to be a hell of a lot of fun. Again, that'll be in the 12:30 to 1 o'clock West Coast time hour. I will start the program at about noon on the West Coast. And then Friday for Lunchtime Live, Mac's going to be with me this week. Obviously, we'll talk some Ryder Cup, because that'll be going on as we speak. That's this weekend. We'll set up a couple other things. We'll set the MLB weekend for you as well. TJ, any final words?
Sorry, I was doing my best Mac impression. No, I'm looking forward to seeing what happens tonight in Seattle, and see if the Mariners can finally punch that ticket.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I don't think they can get in with tonight without the Yankees win. And last time I checked,
Too late.
the Yankees still have life. It is the bottom of the ninth, runner on first with nobody out, 2-1. They are still losing to the White Sox, but I think it's a foregone conclusion with the statement that the Mariners made last weekend against the Astros, and especially on Sunday. I mean, did they drop the freaking hammer right away on them or what? Mac, any final words in the middle there as your Red Sox look like they're closing in on a victory?
Very happy with that. Yeah, this is going to be a fun. This is a fun weekend. I mean, Ryder Cup. Whether you're if even if you're not a golf fan, you can watch the Ryder Cup and really appreciate. You want to talk about intensity. It's the waste management. It's like the waste management tournament only on every single hole. There's a lot of crap talking that goes on between the fans and the players, between the players and players. The Ryder Cup is absolutely phenomenal. So even like you said, if you're not a golf fan, you got to check it out because that is must see TV.
Yeah, absolutely. That's going to be quite the scene at Bethpage and Captain America, Keegan Bradley. Here's where I urge to you that you didn't pick yourself to play, and I understand why. Some of us have markets on who gets to hit the first tee shot for the United States team, and I may have put one down on local guy Cameron Young to hit the first tee shot because I think the scene would be absolutely ridiculous if he did it, being a local guy. So you can make it up to me by making sure Cameron Young hits the first tee shot in the Ryder Cup. I'll be very happy with you. So for everybody behind the scenes, for TJ, for Vegas Mac, we'll be back with you. Same bat time, same bat channel tomorrow. Have a good rest of your evening, and we're out.